Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be updating my Sudoku Toplane Tierlist for patch 13.11, so let's get into it. To begin with, there are not a lot of changes. There are very few things which have adjusted the top lane meta. The majority have just been Trinity Force and Hull Breaker changes and like people adapting to these builds, but overall that hasn't shaken up the meta a huge amount. Yeah, things like Jax, Fiora, Riven all perform a lot better at the moment. And there are other champs which also follow kind of that path of just performing a decent amount better with adjustments to like items, things like Stride Breaker being buffed, Gordrenko being buffed. All these changes has benefited them, but let's get into it. So Nico, I'm actually just going to add into the top lane tier list. There are very few changes. There's not a lot which is like actually just generally adjusted top lane meta. There aren't picks which have suddenly risen up, but like a few additions, things like, yeah, Nico performing a lot better as a top laner is a three-way flex pick. Ivan, really overpowered at the moment in the jungle. Still works as a laner, just not as overbearing in a lane as in the jungle. He will probably get nerfed next patch, but I'm going to put him in the A tier. He can be considered S or borderline OP as well, but you do have to put a bit of time into him and learn how to use Daisy correctly, stuff like this. Rek'Sai, really powerful top laner. The buffs massively helped top lane Rek'Sai. Being able to use your Q more frequently and putting points in your Q just has a lot more value. It makes Rek'Sai a really strong top laner, including her passive now, which does maximum HP. You can sustain a hell of a lot, like running second wind, D-shield, and just abusing her passive healing. She can pretty much survive any lane or just neutralize the lane and win a decent amount as well. She has really strong dueling capabilities. You can run Conqueror, you can run Halo Blades if you're just looking for that burst trade and then disengage with E. Stuff like this. Rek'Sai, really strong top laner. Azir going to move up into the A tier. I really want to just sell Azir as being a really powerful top laner. He is really strong. I definitely recommend putting the time into playing this champ more than ever at the moment. He is really strong once you put like the hours in. Still also a really good mid laner, just better in the top lane at the moment, I would consider. Yeah, the builds, you don't need to go Nashers, but Nashers isn't a bad item per se. Things like Ludens, Shadow Flame work quite nicely on Azir. You can opt into like Liandry's or the tanky kind of playstyle with your Crown and your Frozen Heart, stuff like this. There are options there. But yeah, overall, Azir, really good top laner at the moment. Definitely don't sleep on him. Renekton was one of the few champs from this patch which got buffed in the top lane. That and Akali. Akali doesn't really get adjusted. Didn't really do that much to her win rate and relatively similar play and ban rate. Yeah, Renekton going to move up into the B tier. I am considering moving him up all the way to the A tier. He is performing a lot better. You can almost cycle his ult twice in fights if you build a lot of CDR, which is a really valuable thing to have, as he can build up Fury a lot easier and it gives him bonus health. It's also a damage, also has a lot of damage tied to it. So overall, Renekton performing a lot better with that. The E having a lower CD as well allows him to chase a lot more frequently, which also benefits champ quite nicely. Fiora is going to be moving up into the S tier. The one champ which hasn't been buffed or adjusted is just performing a lot better. Has a lot of winning matchups at the moment in the top lane. Also has really good itemization. No direct buffs or adjustments, but just performing a lot better with the items around her and just matchups in general. I'm going to cover a couple of these champs which I think need to be spoken about, because it might be like, why are they in this spot? Things like Jace, Gragas, Cassante don't perform anywhere near as well in solo queue. It's why I'm not going to recommend these champs. If you're really good at these champs, of course they're really strong. The whole meme about Gragas not being nerfed at the moment, still going around, makes kind of sense if you're only looking from a solo queue perspective. He's a decent jungler, he's a above average mid laner, and he's a fairly average top laner. If he was breaching overpowered in the jungle, then yeah, I could see it for being nerfed, but it's mainly just going to be pro which gets him nerfed. And I think he should be nerfed. I think his passive is a bit, passive sustain is a bit too strong at the moment. Jace, really valuable pick to reflex, does a lot of damage, really safe if you can play it correctly, but does require a lot of time put into it. If you're running things like Phase Rush, you can run First Strike, Conks if you want to. But yeah, there's a lot of power in this champion. It's just sitting in the B tier because it's, yeah, once again, hard to pick up as a champ. He's relatively popular, which then lowers his win rate in general. Yeah, Cassante also kind of similar. does a lot of damage, really powerful if you put a lot of time into the champ, but once again it is kind of affected by the fact that lots of people play Cassante, versus win rate kind of falls because of it. Things like Rumble being in the C tier. Rumble is going to get adjusted next patch. Hopefully this does put the champ in a better spot. He's not particularly popular at the moment, and people want to play him top lane, but he's being pushed more towards mid. With this patch, he should hopefully become more of a top laner. He's gaining some maximum health damage on his Q. Pretty sure he's also just gaining more damage in general later on into the game. Just try to push him away from him being a level 6 kind of like ult bot roamer, where you just ult waves, you can roam around, or you can use your ult on side lanes, which should help him with the top lane because it should incentivize more play in the top lane. If he can duel other juggernauts later on. Akali, yeah, once again, didn't get affected by her buffs nearly enough in the top lane. She's not a bad mid laner, but not doing too hot in the top lane. There's a lot of champs which can quite easily nullify her. Nah can work as a champion. I also think he's pretty risky to play, especially if you fall behind on Nah. It can be really hard to have a lot of impact in the game. Yeah, his ultimate's really powerful, but you have to be in a good position, and finding those angles can be kind of challenging. Volibear is a champ which I hope gets buffed at some point. Again, he did receive buffs more recently. He does perform a bit better off them, but still not doing as well as he should be. Rammus, more of a niche pick here. He does usually hold a decent win rate in the top lane, and if you play him into the correct matchups, he can be considered a A-tier pick. But yeah, if you play him into everything, he's really just a C-tier kind of pick. Lilia, not really seen in the top lane that much anymore. It used to be quite a popular pick, but still works, just only into tanks. You don't really want to pick her into a lot of the juggernauts at the moment. They will kind of just nullify her and shut her down. Graves has options in build, is a powerful champion. Still, I'm pretty sure it is optimal to go Youmuu's, but there are probably other options now that Youmuu's has been nerfed. I will probably do a Youmuu's tier list for top lane and talk about some of the champs which can abuse his item quite well. Things like, yeah, Riven, Graves can abuse the item. Jace last patch, not so much this patch. The nerfs have made Eclipse more favorable of an option. Duskblade Jace might also be an option there. I haven't seen a huge amount of it, but the win rate suggests that it might be good. Overall, yeah, those are kind of like the thoughts for some of these champs. Sejuani, someone was talking to me the other day about Sejuani. My thoughts on Sejuani are that she's not a bad champ, has good utility, but there are a lot of champs within the top lane at the moment which can kind of nullify her and go even in lane and have more value later on. She doesn't have great split push potential. Her main value comes from her ultimate, and if someone tanks that ultimate, then it can feel quite bad to play Sejuani. But yeah, lots of CC in the champion, just doesn't perform to the same level as she used to. When she did a lot more damage with Sunfires and had the wave clear and options like that, she felt a lot better to play, because you could enable yourself on the map without risking losing too much top. But now that you can't, you struggle pushing the wave, and if you push wave with your W, you can put yourself at risk of being traded onto, or just taking a lot of damage and burning through mana. It can be kind of risky to play the champion. Karma, I wouldn't recommend playing Karma at the moment. Champ really struggles in the current state of the game. Has a lot of bad matchups. You can, of course, go like a more supportive build, but the items aren't anywhere near as good as they used to be on Karma. I'm pretty sure her optimal build right now is Chevalier's Mandate, with Moonstone still not being a great option, and the new item getting nerfed just isn't performing as well on Karma as the other options. So yeah, that's the thoughts on Karma. And Udyr, you want to rush Demonics on Udyr. His AD build doesn't perform particularly well anymore. But overall, Udyr just struggles with his later options. Jackshow and Radiant can both work. I'm pretty sure it's still more optimal to go Radiant, even though the you can accidentally burn the cooldown on it. So it's kind of a gamble. And then yeah, Yorick, another champ I want to talk about. Yorick can do quite well in the current state of the game. He has a lot of powerful builds. He just doesn't perform to the level that some of the other juggernauts do at the moment. He can be kind of vulnerable to play, and he's kind of forced into shoving a lot of waves where he might not want to, and it puts him in a vulnerable spot, which is why I haven't moved Yorick up recently. But if you're good at Yorick, then he can compete with a lot of the S tier champions. Things like, I'm pretty sure Ornn struggles into Yorick, but you can cancel Ornn's E. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.